Hey everybody, and on today's vlog, we are going to be talking about Magic Money, a game of arcane auctions by Indie Boards and Cards. Let's get to it!
Greetings, mighty wizard. No doubt you've heard of the passing of the great Merlin the Magnificent, Grand Sorcerer of the Aegeus Guild. What you may not have heard about is his passion for rescuing magical creatures. As much as the guild would love to responsibly keep and protect these adorable critters, we must confess that the care of these creatures is more than any one wizard could handle, except for, of course, the magnificent Merlin himself. So we hereby extend this invitation to participate in a once-in-a-generation opportunity to adopt these wondrous creatures for your own collections. The Guild is temporarily lifting their ban on conjuring gold for the event, but if you want to be trusted with these creatures, you have to prove you're a responsible spender. Whichever wizard is the greediest will be booted from the proceedings. Dust off those old alchemy tomes and join us for an evening of excitement, wonder, and mountains of magic money. Regards, the terrific Tulloch, Arcane Treasurer.
Hey sir, how's it going?
Hi.
So what are we discussing today?
Today we are discussing Magic Money, a game for 3 to 6 players from IBC or Indie Boards and Cards. We played this with a couple of friends of ours, however they did not wish to be in the video. So we are filming the video separately after we played the game with them. It was lovely to play a game with friends. It's the first time we've done it in a very, very long time. It was the only game, I think maybe we played like one other game that day, but we did not play very many games. We didn't stay for very long, but it was nice to finally get out and to see friends and to play games with them. And it feels like that was a treat, and I don't feel like we're going to be, air quotes, getting back to normal or anything like that anytime soon, but for having been, closeted at the house for almost a year, it was nice to actually go out, meet a friend, play some games. Minimum of 3 players. We played a 4-player game. And it's an interesting and fun, sort of fast playing game. It plays in about a half an hour or less. And if you're familiar with a game called QE, some of the concepts and mechanics in Magic Money are going to be sort of familiar to you. I have played QE before. I think it's an interesting concept. I feel like Magic Money is a more fleshed out version of the sort of general idea behind QE, and I felt like as a game this is a more complete experience that was also more interesting and fun to me than QE was. But if you like QE, I would definitely check out Magic Money, because like I said, I just feel like it's QE but a finished concept, and more fun and entertaining and interesting. If you like bidding, bluffing, and like fantasy style games that play quickly, I would also check this one out. So, would you like to hear how it actually plays?
Yes.
All right. So, like I said, Magic Money is a bidding and bluffing game where we are wizards who have been invited to this auction where different magical creatures are going to be up for auction. And we are going to be attempting to add them to our sort of collections. We are wizards, so we can conjure up as much gold as we need to pay for the creatures that we're bidding on. However, we don't want to seem terribly greedy by conjuring up just, stacks on stacks on stacks. So we are going to be trying to keep it a little bit reserved, a little bit, not super flashy, because the player who is the greediest is going to be thrown out of the auction and will not be able to win the game. So what's going to happen is every player is going to receive a ledger, and the ledger is double-sided. So we have the public ledger here on this side and the private ledger here on this side. Now the public ledger is public information, but the private ledger is not, unless a card is played that would force a player to reveal their private ledger. either to one or all players. Unless that happens, your private ledger is private, and you get to sort of keep that information to yourself for the entire game. So we start with the ledger, we start with a marker, we start with some player aids, and then we also start with a bidding token, which is how we are going to communicate our bids to the player who is running the current auction. So that's everything that the players get. There's also a deck of creature cards. Now, this is set up for a 3-player game. There are a lot more creature cards in the box, but you use different numbers of cards based on the number of players. So what's going to happen is each round of the game, the active player, which is going to be, for the first round, determined in any way you wish. They recommend the youngest player, but it can be determined in any way you wish. After that, the active player will be the player who won the previous bid. So the active player is going to start a new auction by taking the top card off of the deck and making it sort of the active item that's being bid on. This is going to reveal the next creature up for auction, though. So we have Norman, the unicorn, is currently up for auction. Norman is simply worth 3 points, and he has a couple of icons down here which may help us with some end of game scoring objectives, but he doesn't have any special abilities or anything like that. So Norman is currently up for auction. The active player is going to establish the bid at 1/10 of the previous winning bid. So we'll just make the maths simple. If the previous winning bid was $100, then the active player for this round has to start this auction off at $10. So the active player begins the auction. Every player secretly writes their bid onto their bidding token and passes it to the active player. The active player is going to look at and compare all of the bids from all of the other players. Now, if there is a tie, the active player gets to decide who wins the tie by any means that they want. It could just be like, I like this person better, or they're wearing my favorite color, or they seem like they're behind, so maybe I'll let them win, or I really want to crush that person's face, so I'm not going to give it to them. However you see fit if there's a tie. Otherwise, the highest bid wins the auction, and the active player will sort of award the card that's being auctioned to that player. And then what's going to happen is that player will write their bid on their public ledger, and every other player will write their bid on their private ledger. They become the active player for the next round. They reveal the card that's going to be auctioned, and we carry on. We do this until we have gotten through the entire deck of cards that were established based on the player count. And then the game is going to end. And when the game ends, we're going to do a few things. The first is that we are going to look at all of the icons on cards that we collected. So there are 3 different types of icons that are on cards that we could have collected. There are the unicorn horns, there are the wings, and then there are hearts. And there are 2 halves to the hearts. Here's a left heart. So there's this left half of the heart and a right half of the heart. Now, when we are adding up our scores, the horns are simply just worth 1 victory point for each horn that you have if you have an odd number of horns. If you have an even number of horns, they're not worth anything, so you really, really want an odd number of horns. If you have it, they're worth 1 point each. The wings are worth points based on the number of players who have fewer wings than you do. So for every player that has fewer wings than you do, you get 1 point per wing that you've collected. And then finally, the heart halves are worth 2 victory points for each set of complete hearts. So that's 1 right and 1 left heart that you have. Then also, we add up just the straight total number of victory points that each creature is worth. And we then determine who has bid the most collectively over the entire game. So we would add up all of the values on our private and public ledgers, and whoever has bid the most over the course of the game is not eligible to win. However, they do get to be a part of adding up the symbols. So where the wings are dependent on players who have less than you do. This does count players who will eventually be kicked out of the game for being the greediest wizard. So we add up all of the attribute points we would have gotten. We add up our public and private ledgers. The greediest wizard, the wizard who has bid the most money over the entire game, is kicked out of the game for being too greedy and not responsible enough to take care of the animals. We assume because of their mismanagement of money, apparently. And then whoever has the most points wins the game.
Cool.
So that is Magic Money. Like I said, I think it's a more fleshed out, more complete version of QE. QE has some of the same general ideas in that there's an auction. To be honest, I don't even remember what the auction is for. It might just be like who wins the auction kind of thing. And you are writing down bids on a card like this, and you're giving it to a person, and they're determining who wins or loses. And that one is really sort of abstracted because it can be like, I bid 12 hot dogs, and somebody else is like, I bid $1 million, right? And stuff like that. So I like that it captures the sort of like silly nature and this sort of not that there's no rules, but you can kind of just do whatever you want in that one. I like that it captures that feeling, but gives us some things that are a little bit more graspable, I guess, a little bit less abstract. There are points. There's a tiny bit of set collection going on here. So I like the general concept behind QE, but I think that in this game they give me enough scoring criteria and things like that where it's more interesting. And sometimes abstracted games are too abstract for me to enjoy, but I felt like there was still that hint at the abstract nature of this particular mechanic, bid whatever you want kind of thing, but it had more sort of familiar elements of more traditional gameplay where there's like a little bit of set collection, there's victory points, that kind of stuff. And I don't mean to be unfair to QE. Between the two, I feel like they're quite similar in their feel, and the mechanics in each game and stuff like that is pretty similar. But I would definitely prefer Magic Money over QE. So yeah, like I said, we got to play this with 4 players, and it was fun. It was casual. I enjoyed it. What did you think, Nick?
I enjoyed it. This was a nice little quick game. We played with a lot more cards than we were supposed to the first time.
Yeah, the first time we played, I had missed the part in the rules about how many cards you're supposed to play with. So we were just like playing. And I was like, we were starting to run out of lines on our ledgers. And I was like, this doesn't seem to be making sense. And so then I went back to the rules and I was like, oh, I missed this very key part about the number of cards you actually play with based on the number of players. So we tried it again, and it made a lot more sense after that.
Yeah, so I mean, it was fun. It was fast. There is that infinite number of points or a goal that you can like just kind of thing, but at the same time, the artwork and like the set collection and the points kind of make you not want to be that player. It's like, oh, just 10 million and whatever. It's like I'll get kicked out.
There's some really cute artwork, and some of the cards quite a few of the cards have like special abilities that will help you with either end of game scoring or things that you can do in the game. I'm running out of room here, but I thought I'd lay them all out so you can see all the artwork. There's some really cute stuff here.
There's an owl bear.
So
so it's just it's a game that draws you in and not just blow it off with I'm gonna bid $1 million, I'm gonna bid $2 million, but then when you can actually like play the game and try to win, and you're trying to get also the not just the points on the cards but also the the set collection points and
Yeah, the
maybe some of the
attributes.
abilities that they'll have. I mean, it was very interesting.
Yeah, I thought one of the interesting things about it was that while almost all of the cards have points, there are like one or two, like here's one that are worth no points. While almost all of the cards are worth points, sometimes you wouldn't necessarily feel like you had to have a certain card because maybe you were hoping to, like, the horns. You only get the victory points for the horns if you have an odd number. So, like, in the last round of the game, we were all like, oh, I need a horn to make an odd number, or I really don't need a horn, because if I get a horn, then it's going to mess up my victory points for horns. So there were things that you could sort of strategize about. It was very, very light strategy, but it was definitely there. And like sometimes the abilities were like, oh, that could be really useful, and that one's not worth a lot of points, but that ability would be really nice, so I'm going to bid higher on this one. So there was definitely between the attributes, just the straight score victory points, and then also the abilities, I think there was enough to sort of consider and manage that it was definitely interesting enough to hold my attention for the entire game. And then combined with like just the artwork and the lore and stuff like that, I thought it was pretty cute.
Nice. Well, this was our discussion vlog on the Magic Money by Indie Boards and Cards, and we hope you all enjoyed it. And if you're interested, go ahead and check it out for yourself. We'll have a link to the page on BGG about this game in the description below. But until next time, we'll see y'all later. Toodles!